But he was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And it made my day. And then on the other end of it, Ron and Broad Ripple called in to rip me because he didn't have TNT and called me an effing joke and said I had my head up my ass, which I admitted to that. It's been that way since 1969. And there's really, at this point, I'm 49. There's not much hope it's ever going to come out of there. So that was also classic. It's been a great day here. Great day. Matt Painter, Boilermaker, head coach, bottom of the hour. Andy Moore, Automotive Group hotline right now from CBS 4 and Fox 59. Our friend Mike Chappell joins us. It's been one hell of an eventful day for me around here. It has.
I'm looking forward to Matt Painter and I being able to lift the show to where it needs to be.
Ron called in and he called me some names. He was mad he didn't have TNT. So yeah.
That's your fault?
Listen, everything is. Come on now.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
Well, I've got a faucet in my kitchen that's running real slow. Can you come over and take care of that too?
I'll give it a try. Just give me a wrench and we'll give it a try.
I've tried using a wrench in plumbing, and it's not always a good thing to do. I always make it worse.
Yeah, there's no doubt. No doubt about that. All right, before we move forward and get into the offseason, and I've talked about so far this week what my plan would be. Clearly, they don't care what my plan might be. Maybe you do, but looking back at this season in all, the level of enjoyment it had to be a Colts fan, comparable to what season in the past since you've covered this team since they got here?
Boy, I don't know that I would put 2012. Maybe I would. I'd say 2012 and probably 99. To where you came from, really bad. In 98, we kind of saw the groundwork with Manning, and we thought it would certainly, we thought it would get to where it got to, but you saw the foundation in place. 2012, I don't remember that we thought, boy, this is Peyton's early years revisited, because 2000 or the 99 season, you had some really, really good players with the Edgerins and all those guys. But I just think what we talked about, and I keep coming back to, we were concerned from looking outside, looking in, how apathy was growing. And when you lose the fan base, it's hard. It takes time to get it back. And they got it back. That's, to me, just, I don't say, I'm not a fan. We get paid whether they win, lose, or whatever. But it was just encouraging and interesting to see how they grew and how the fans and how Central Indiana sort of re-embrace these guys. And that's what you want from a sports and a media standpoint, is when the community reconnects with the franchise, it lifts up the entire community when your team's winning. It just does.
Yeah,
one of the values.
And then to counter that,
of having that,
Mike, the past 3 years, I mean, it's been tough on everybody.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why you can see that last year when you don't have luck, so you've got a built-in excuse, I guess. But prior to that, they were just losing a portion every year of the fans' support. They just were. The fact that they had that one time they had the big waiting list and all that for season tickets, and that sort of diminished and all that. And I just think with what they're building, and we'll see if they can sustain it, because let's keep in mind, people were pretty enthused in 2012, and they had a general manager named Executive of the Year, and you had the quarterback and all this, and they had success, and then they simply couldn't sustain it. The whole thing's about sustaining success, and this seems to be, it's always kind of dangerous when you're in the moment. You always think this is the best time, but this appears to be on better foundation than it was back then. There's not as much reliance on free agents, on high-end free agents. We could argue whether they need to be more active or not more active, but on the higher end of things this coming off season. But I just think with the fact that they've had two pretty good drafts, and you've got the offensive line fixed. Now it's fixed, not 2 years ago when Jim Irsay said it was fixed. So there's reasons for optimism to where maybe in the past there wasn't quite as much reason.
Mike Chappell's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right, I think you know where I stand on this, but we'll talk about it anyway. Do you think that, obviously the plan so far, their path, their blueprint is working? They have put themselves, however, in a situation where, if you wanted to make a big move, to get somebody like I believe, you need a game-breaking type of wide receiver opposite of T.Y. Hilton that you could do and not necessarily have to just lean financially on trying to bring somebody in that's not at that level, by the way, with the free agent list that you have at that position, where, you can maybe go off the board or the plan a little bit and try to bring somebody in via a trade, something like that. Do you think that the success of especially the 2018 draft would lead Chris Ballard to the direction where we got to continue this, or would lead him down the path of, well, because we did this right, we now are afforded the opportunity to go out and make something big happen in the offseason? What do you think?
Well, you didn't mention Antonio Brown, but is that what you're talking about?
Well, of course. That or anything. Any type of deal. I brought up A.J. Green the other day just for the heck of it as well. I brought up Stephon Diggs. I brought up anybody that I think would be equal to and certainly better than, and no disrespect to T.Y. Hilton on the opposite side, to make this offense where it needs to go, because the final four teams that are left right now, the top four teams offensively, the Colts are the fifth, and they are out. I think you're going to have to raise your game offensively, and that's where I would start.
Well, if not raise your game, certainly stay where it's at. If you're fifth, you want to get better, and someone always used to say you're either getting better or you're regressing. You never stay the same. So we had this discussion last year, and I haven't changed. They need a big time number two receiver or a one to go with their one. They just do. The free agent market doesn't really offer that. Was it Golden Tate and Randall Cobb and
Larry Fitzgerald?
Like yeah, but and I wouldn't mess with that because he's got another year to go, and I don't think that would serve a purpose.
Yeah, I would agree with you. See, I'm not down with the free agent list. That's why I think that you've put yourself in a position where you can make something happen, and I hope that they do.
Well, but let's say you trade. Let's say you trade for Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
and you give up a one.
Right.
And then the problem is, I went back and looked at his contract. I believe he's under contract for 3 more years, I think, or maybe 3 more years at $12 million a year. Well, he's not going to play for $12 million a year, so you're going to have to trade for him, redo his contract. I think he's 29 or 30. Are you going to pay him $60 million? I don't know. And I don't know that I would do that, because then you get into all this of what the baggage is. And there's baggage. There simply is.
And I would agree, but at the very least, you investigate it to the fullest, don't you, if you're in their position right now? There may be deal breakers in this. I do recognize that. But you have to me, try to go at it. Because the expectations are going to be raised, and we all know the NFL is all about it's like 85% offense, and the rest is about defense, just making a play here or there to get you through. And I just think it's necessary.
If you want to make the old cannonball splash off the top, off the high board, you get Bell and you get Brown, and then what do you got? So, but I just don't think they do that. I do wish the free agent market was better, because I think they're in position to do that. Although what Ballard told us on Monday, if you're listening, is we're going to stay the course. We're not going to go out and go crazy. In my mind, what he would do is bring in the same type of players: Eric Ebron, Denico Autry, Jabal Shared, those kind of guys. And those are really good players. But generally, Ebron's 14 touchdowns would argue the point, but they're not difference-making, game-swinging players. Again, although I say Ebron did have that impact this year, and can you do that next year? I don't know. But I just don't see him doing that. One thing that he said that he was right on, and people disagree with, is that we haven't been active in free agency. They have. They've signed, 10, 12 players the last 2 years in free agency. It's just been those mid-level guys. Jonathan Hankins got the really big contract. I think it was $16 million guaranteed. They just haven't gone after the mega guys on the first couple of days, the Norwells and people like that. The one thing that concerned me, what he said, and this is reinforcing the way they want to do things, is he said, well, would you like to have 3 really top-level wide receivers? Of course you would. T.Y. and 2 other guys. But he said, our coaching staff sort of has shown you can scheme to make guys effective and productive and all that. And you can say that they did it with Ebron and was it 13 receivers with touchdowns. My concern is you can only scheme so much. And then it is about talent. And then it is about receivers getting separation and winning one-on-ones. That's why I would, you and I argued they needed to get a bigger name, a bigger quality receiver last offseason, which they didn't do. And the fact that they got 39 touchdowns out of Andrew Luck with the collection that they had speaks volumes of Luck. It speaks volumes of Reich and Sirianni. I just wish there was more top-end talent to go with T.Y. Hilton. You're going to have Deion Kane come back from the ACL. What can you realistically expect in year two from a guy that missed all of year one? So I think that's difficult to gauge. I think they take a receiver early in the draft. I really do. Whether it's round one or round two, I think they do that. But it's the same concern we had last year. Top end receiver, top end pass rusher, and free agency is not going to really offer you either one.
Kevin sent me this tweet here. I'm going to read this to you, and we'll respond to it. Kevin says, JMV, your theory that the Colts need a second dynamic wide receiver is flawed by your own admission. Look at the teams left. None of them have two dynamic wide receivers. Kansas City is the closest, Kelsey, but the Colts have T.Y. and Eric Ebron. Well, they're each put together differently here, but to me, Kansas City, you have Kelsey at tight end. You have a complete joker who, to me, is as productive as you can find any other wide receiver in Hill. And you did have that high-level running back in Kareem Hunt until he went knucklehead and got kicked off the team and out of the league right now. So they're surviving without it. And they also went out and got Sammy Watkins in the offseason, who was top 3 on the list of available free agent wide receivers. So I don't think my argument is flawed there in trying to go next level by utilizing the means that you have, Mike.
Well, that's the thing. You've got, as they did last year, they've got the means to do whatever they want at whatever cost it would take to do it. I mean, they've got more cap space this year than they had last year, and they had $70-80 million last year to do it. And they've got an owner. We've been here. Jim Irsay will pay whatever it costs to get whatever Chris Ballard wants. It's what has always been the case. And we were joking in the media room recently that this is the dynamic where Jim Irsay is almost begging his GM, it seems, to bring in talent because I'll pay for this, that, and the other. And Chris Ballard has shown really good restraint by not overpaying for talent. Because more times than not, you overpay and you don't get what you paid for. And he understands that. And he also understands, and this is true too, that in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to have some massive contracts to deal with. Costanzo, T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck, Ryan Kelly. So all these guys in the next 2 or 3 years you got to deal with, and to some degree you've got a budget for that. But on top of that, again, this free agent class, unless somebody's out there that will be out there we don't expect, I'm not sure who's going to merit the big pay. And whoever's at the top end of the free agent list, they're going to get massive numbers just because of supply and demand.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a guy who grades out as a B, and he's the only one out there, he's going to get paid A-plus money. And that's what these guys have not done the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know that it's likely not going to happen, but, being there, and this all comes from being there on Saturday and watching, what looked necessary for this team to get to that level versus a 1 seed, and in this case on Saturday in their building, because there was zero separation, basically until the Chiefs kind of backed off the pedal defensively a little bit, play the old Carolina four corners of college basketball-wise defensively. I mean, before that, there was no separation whatsoever. And, T.Y. had the best season of his career. He was dinged up. Ebron dropped some passes. Running game got going because I thought the Chiefs kind of allowed the running game to get going to chew on that clock. And I just thought that it was evident that you need somebody T.Y. level or a little bit above